going to make this purse without a sewing machine, by hand, just hand sewing with this thread and this needle that did become a bit bent when I was sewing the leather side. Now you can machine sew this purse and it would be loads easier. Well, not loads easier, but loads quicker to sew. We haven't pressed ours yet. And you just follow exactly the same instructions as we show you in this video. Now, these purse making kits are available from our Etsy page, Stitchless TV. So if you're interested, here are some other colourways. Now, I'm not going to do very many of these kits because they're loads of work and I'm not sure I'm charging enough. But at the moment, they all come with what you see today. So this is the pink version. And this is the purple version that we're doing today. And this is the green, should we call it the green version? And they're all original prints, printed onto a really easy to work with kind of velvety fabric. So I threaded up my needle, double thread. I'm going to do it in red today, but obviously I'm only doing that so that you can see it easily. So we've got our front and we've got our back, and then we've got two pieces of lining, and you can put them whichever way you want. So I'm going to put the zip pull on the side where it's got oast, which was once, I suppose, post. So I'm going to put the zip pull down that end, and then I'm going to undo the zip, which is important. Then I'm going to turn it over so that it faces down on the right side of the fabric. And then I'm going to get one of the pieces of lining and put it absolutely perfectly on top. Now, I sometimes use double-sided sticky tape. So what's really important is that all of my edges are perfectly lined up, the side edges and the edges along the top. Right, so you can begin wherever you want and whichever side you want. Make sure that nothing moves, and we're just going to do loads of back stitches to go from one end to the other. Now when we begin, go in and out a couple of times, I'd say. So I have put a knot at the end of the thread. I didn't say that, did I? Your seam allowance, I think you can do about, shall we say, 1/2 centimetre. So off we go. This is backstitch. Now obviously the smaller your stitches, the neater it will look on the right side. I'm not sure that I'm going to do really small stitches today because I want to finish. But look, so I've gone in wide on the back side, come through, and now I'm going to go back in to where I'd finished before. Do you see that? This is simply a back stitch using double thread. So look, I'm going to go proud of where I was before, but not too proud. Okay, and then in where I just finished. So I'll move this out the way and I'll do it again. Do you want to see the other side? So the other side, look, I'm going about there. And then go in close to where I just finished, or in the same hole. So we're going to do that all the way down. Now remember, don't go too big with your stitches, even though I kind of am. okay? So I want you to do that going all the way down and make sure things don't move around too much. So the reason why I created these little hand sew purse kits is partly so that you could do them with your kids, but also, whoops, that wasn't a good one, but also so you could sew something on holiday. So, you know, maybe you could start making them as Christmas presents. Get ahead of yourself, that'd be good, wouldn't it? So when you get to the end, just go in and out a couple of times. So when you're happy, leave a little bit of a tail there. So when you're happy, you can have a look at your work. Now we would normally press this, but I'm imagining that you're by the pool and you're on holiday and you haven't got an iron yet. So we're just going to move on to the next stage. So you've done this, you've effectively attached the lining to the purse and the top layer as well. So now we need to do exactly the same to the leather. Now you've got to be careful when you do leather that it doesn't stretch, but the stuff in this kit should be absolutely fine. So again, the zip has to go right sides together with the fabric. So shall I show you that again? So I've got it all the right way round, yeah? There's my zip, it's the right way up. I'm going to flop everything over because I want the zip to face down with the leather. And then I'm going to line it up all perfectly like I did before. So you see how our zips exactly fit the leather and exactly fit the printed fabric. That's just to make your life really easy. So now I'm going to get my lining. Now my lining, if it had a print on it, then that has to go right sides together as well. Now when I do my workshops, what I say is you're kind of creating a zip sandwich with your fabrics right sides together. I don't know if that helps or not. Anyway, so that's all got to be lined up super perfectly as well. Now when you're down the end where the zipper is, it is just a tiny bit tricky, but just stick more clips on. So all of the edges of the fabric have to go and match up with the selvage edge of the zip, yeah? Everything has to match up really perfectly. And then when it does, you're ready to sew all the way along there again, doing the same thing, the back stitch. And you can do it that way round, or you can do it the leather side. So once again, create a knot in your thread and begin wherever you want. So leather, it's not a problem. Just sew it exactly the same. Now you might want a thimble. Now sometimes when people sew with leather, they say you should put beeswax on the thread. I haven't done that. So same thing, you're just going to sew backstitch going all the way along that edge. So I won't say that that was easy. It was easy, but it was tough on my needle. I mean, maybe you could use like a proper leather needle. It wasn't that big a deal, but I just haven't got a thimble. So that's that, but look at that. See how good it looks? So look what you've done now. So now you have done, you've attached both of the linings. Okay, if I just score it along for now. You've attached both of the linings, and look, even though I was using red thread, we can't really see it, can we? And you've attached the front side and the back side. Now the next bit is really important. Right, you ready? So this bit is very important. I want you to put your bag, outside bits, right sides together, and then lift it up so that your linings are on one side and your outer bits of your bags are on the other. You must have that zip open. And then, this is the mega important bit for nice finished edges. We push the zip, okay, look, zip goes towards the lining. Lines up perfectly. So zip towards the lining, but seam allowance is towards the purse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a clip there to hold it in place whilst I sort out the bit down here. Line up the bottom. So what you're going to do now is you're going to sew with that in position the way I've just told you, which is really important. You're going to sew with like a 1/2 centimetre seam allowance, or maybe a centimetre, 1/2 centimetre seam allowance, going straight down there, doing that back stitch thing again. So I'm going to start down this end here. Now we don't go across the bottom, we just start in the corner, and I'm going to go in and out a couple of times. And then I start doing the back stitch, going all the way along. Now you don't have to take too small a seam allowance because then your purse will come undone. So you do whatever you feel comfortable with. Now I'm finding it easier that every time I need to push this in at the back, it's easier if I turn it over, push it in, and then bring it this way. And then go in from this side, turn it over. I can't tell you how tempted I am to get the sewing machine out. So look, I'm now at the bit where the zips are going towards the lining and the seam allowance is going towards the bag here. So I'm just going to sew, going back stitch all the way down there. I'm cheating. For the lining, I'm just doing a running stitch going all the way down because nobody's going to see it, are they? So look, it's so much quicker. But you need to do the back stitch for the outside. So there you go, we've done that. It looks really awful, doesn't it? But honestly, it looks really fine. On the right side, it will look good. And look, and the lining, wow. Even the lining's okay. So make sure, can you see in there? Make sure that zip's open. This is your last chance to make sure that the zips are open. Flip it over now, because now we're going to sew up the other side of the bag. So the same rule. You have to push, look, see that black of that zip. The black of that zip has to be pushed towards the lining on the left. Put a clip there. And yes, it is quite thick to stitch through there by hand. Put clips holding everything in place. We don't sort of use pins, not because I'm being difficult, but because when you sew leather, first of all, it's hard to get the pins into the leather, but also it punctures holes in the leather. So that's not very good. So we're lining everything up. And then we do the same thing on this side as well. Now, if you do get a bit of buckling in the leather, you can sort of ease it in. Look, I've spread out all the width of it and I've eased it in. So now straight along there with that back stitch. Easy. Right, you're really going to be cursing me, aren't you? So when you've back stitched up on the leather side, and you're now at these thick bits here, I can really recommend you putting your needle in through the lining and then just holding down that selvage that you want to go towards the bag, because then that'll make it a lot easier to sew rather than sewing through all that thickness. And now you've got to do the same again for going in and out on the zip. Remember we said the zips go this way, so go in and out of there a couple of times just to hold them down. You're just really holding them down in place. And then when you've done that, then you can do a running stitch, just going down on the lining, or backstitch if you want. Right, sorry for the sound of the washing machine. So we've stitched up both of the sides, we've got our zip in, and our zip is definitely open in there, it's open. So the last bit that you need to do is just stitch across the bottom. So you do exactly the same thing, do that back stitch going across the bottom, and then you're nearly done. So when you get to the end, go in and out a couple of times, but don't go crazy. A bit like that. Oh. Okay, and then when you've done that, we can turn it the right way round. Now usually when we sew it, I do mitre the corners. I'm a bit nervous about doing that if I'm hand sewing it, so I'm not going to do that. So in order to turn it the right way round, it's so exciting when you do this, you're going to fold in, let's fold it in that way, you're going to fold in, if you've got leather, the leather towards the soft stuff, and push it in with your finger. Do the same here, so leather towards the soft stuff and push it in. You can manipulate it afterwards. And then it's like turning a cushion cover the right way round. So do it gently, because this is hand sewn. So we've got a couple of other things that we need to push out. So look, I've got my finger going in where that zip is, and I'm just gently easing it out so it forms a kind of square shape there. And then look, we nearly have a little purse. Now, because you have hand sewn it, don't get too worried if you can see a little bit of your stitches. When you press it, it really will make it look much neater, and I will go and press it. So push in the, well actually, push in the lining whilst you have a look at it. Let's do that. So we're just pushing in our lining, but we will finish off the lining afterwards. Now, like I said, it's very important to press it to get a nice professional finish, but if you're on holiday and you've made it by the beach or by the swimming pool, you may not have an iron yet, but that is pretty good. Now, so obviously we need to press that. Now I think that this tie really finishes it off nicely. Now you can do it however you want, but I've threaded it through this zip pull thing here, and I'm going to tie it in a knot around my finger. So look, go around my finger. Actually, let's do it more neatly. Go around my finger like that. Now, it probably is easier if you glue them together. So I've put a knot down there, and then I'll just neaten off the edges. So I think that that is pretty good, bearing in mind it's made completely by hand sewing. But you understand, don't you, that this would be 100 times easier if you did make it with a sewing machine. Now there are a few tips that I can share with you for if you do it with the sewing machine. But before I talk about those, when you do get to an iron, press the lining away from the zip. So just sort of shove the iron inside and press it away from the zip. Also try and flatten this off with an iron as well. So you put the iron there and you flatten that. So the tips that I would say are, when you are placing the zip right sides together onto your fabric, if you are going to do it with a sewing machine, I really recommend just putting a little bit of glue along the edge and pressing it, holding it together, waiting until it dries, and then sewing with the sewing machine, particularly when you're sewing the leather side, because sometimes there can be a bit of movement with the leather. You could try tacking it first, I suppose, but I'm really sure it works better with either double-sided sticky tape, if you put it right by the edge, or just with a Pritt stick, that's a brand, with a glue stick. Now we do need to finish off the inside. Now when you've got to do that, it's quite easy. All you have to do, just create a little hem and just stitch across there. However you like. You can either do like a blind stitch or you can just do a running stitch, because nobody's going to see it because it's inside. So thank you so much for watching. So remember, you can make these with your own fabric. You don't have to use one of my kits, but if you do want one of my kits, go to the Etsy page, Stitchless TV. See you again very soon. Bye.